There's three approaches you can take to predicting a system's behavior: the physical stance, the design stance, and the intentional stance. Let's get into it. The example that we're going to use here is that you are playing chess with a computer and you are trying to predict what its next move is going to be. To take the physical stance is to use whatever it is that we know about the laws of physics and the physical constitution of a system to predict its behavior. So the physical stance is exactly what you use when you're trying to solve a word problem for your physics course. Like, what's the speed that this ball will roll down this incline? And so the result of applying the physical stance is highly reliable, but it can be impractical, especially in our case over here. To use the physical stance to predict the computer's next move would involve calculating the flow of electrons in its circuitry, and how that will then translate to the next option that it chooses is just way too impractical. But in theory, it would lead to the most accurate result. So the second option is to use design stance, according to which, as long as you know exactly how a system is designed, you should be able to predict how it's going to behave. So for example, if you're trying to predict how an alarm clock is going to behave after you press a certain button on it, as long as you know its design precisely, which is very much possible, you should be able to predict exactly how it's going down, as long as it does not malfunction. And so in the case of trying to predict a computer's next move during chess, that would involve going through the source code of the program, going line by line to figure out how it is the computer is going to react based on the very specific circumstances of the game at this time. And so that brings us to the third stance you can take, the intentional stance. And this involves assuming that any system that you're trying to predict the behavior of is an agent that has beliefs and desires and enough rationality in order to do what it should given those beliefs and desires. And so the computer here desires victory in the chess game, and we're going to assume that it's going to make every move in such a way so that it leads to its eventual victory. So the way you would apply the intentional stance in this case is that you would first make a list of every single legal move that the computer can make at this point. You would then rank them from best to worst, and then you would make the prediction that the computer is going to choose the best move. Now, there can be several best moves, but that's kind of what you get with the intentional stance. You get handiness, but not a lot of reliability. It's a bit riskier than the other two options.